truth is not to be skimmed off of the surface as you think. It lies deeper, and I ask you to take upon you the small effort of seeking it together with me. Johann Gottlieb Fichte. This channel of mine is meant to serve Aufklärung. So, what is usually translated as enlightenment into English, so I consider that a miss, or at least a misleading translation, about which I have already given another lecture. So this channel is meant to be for people that want to become more rational, that want to become more critical, and above all, self-critical, self-reflected. It is meant for people that want to become better people and that want to become more felicious people. It is meant, to say it with Nietzsche, to help you to become who you are. Now, if we consider the time we live in, I would say that one of the most important and most obvious characteristics of our time is its shallowness, its superficiality, and its refusal to ever look and view. It's empty thinking, empty imagining that is not filled with actual viewing. I must only think of my mother, who was always interested in what you would probably call esoteric stuff, New Age stuff. So I have a number of books that I inherited on how to work with tarot cards, on astrology, horoscopes, on the palm leaf libraries in India, on astral travel, on people that were abducted by aliens. And of course, most people, when they hear about this, would probably say, well, that's unaufklärt, right? That is superstition, that is waving, this esoteric nonsense, it's unscientific, it's irrational, it has nothing to do with Aufklärung. But I'm not saying that is wrong, of course, but it's not what interests me here. I'm interested not so much in the content, but in the form. That is a very important distinction that is immensely important in philosophy. I can't stress enough how important it is. If you want to understand actual philosophy, no matter which philosopher, you must learn to distinguish in your thinking between matter and form. And what I'm interested in here is not so much the matter, the content, but the form. What I'm interested in is the posture that speaks from this. Because what kind of books are these? Who are the people who have written these books? Well, they are random nobodies. They are some books that you can find in any random bookstore that is specialized on New Age bullshit books. And you will find that a book there was probably written by some random woman who herself is into all this New Age stuff, and who has maybe read 4 or 5 other books of that same quality, and that's her research, that's what her knowledge is based on. What I'm interested in other words, is not so much that this stuff these books deal with is nonsense per se. What I'm interested in is what kind of books you don't find in this little collection of my mother's. What you don't find there, for example, is the Picatrix, which was the most important, the most well-known, the most influential book of magic in the Middle Ages. What you won't find there is any books by Agrippa, who without doubt is one of the most important and also the most learned, the most well-read occultists of all time. What you don't find there is the Emerald Tablet of Hermes Trismegistus. Nor will you find any real Kabbalistic books, like you won't find the Zohar there, or the Gates of Light. And also, for all the professed fascination with India that my mother had, you will not find the Vedas there, the Bhagavad Gita, the Mahabharata. You will not find any works by great Indian philosophers or thinkers. And you may find there some booklet by some random woman who says that she channeled an ascended master, and he told her that we should all love each other. But you will not find John Dee's Conversations with the Angels. You will find a report on some random person that had a car accident and allegedly had a near-death experience, but you will not find works by real mystics like Meister Eckhart or Ibn Arabi or whatever. Now, I also grew up in an area of Berlin that has lots of immigrants. In my school, we Germans made up less than 10%. Like over 90% of the students there came from immigrant families, lots of Turks, lots of Arabs, and therefore lots of Mohammedans who would go on and on, some of them about Islam and how important Islam is to them, and how Islam is more important than their life and more important than their family. And if you ask what did these guys do with their life, to which Islam is so important, well, they of course did what all the teenager boys did. They played football, they played PlayStation. I will tell you what they didn't do. They didn't read the Quran. I mean, to be sure, they get sent by their parents on Saturdays to Quran school, where they have to memorize short surahs, or where they learn to read the Arabic letters, and then they have to read, that is, they have to pronounce the Quran, but they don't actually know what it says, right? Like Turkish boys, they don't understand Arabic. And this is not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is taking the Quran, like the actual book, sitting down with it, actually read it. Not just a passage, not just a short surah or verse, actually read the whole thing. Either in a good translation, or, I mean, you could also learn Arabic to read it in the original. Why wouldn't you? I mean, call me weird, but if I believed that there is this book that is the literal word of God, like the creator and the ruler of the universe dictated this word for word, and this book basically contains everything that is important. Like, this book tells me what is the meaning of my life. This book tells me what does God want from me. This book is the key of getting into heaven and avoiding hell. Call me crazy, but if I believed that of a text, then I would read that text. And probably not just once. I would probably reread it and reread it and reread it. And I would probably go to the length of actually learning a language to read it in the original. Again, call me weird, but that to me seems to be the sensible thing if we really think that we are dealing with the literal word of God here. But it's not just that these classmates of mine didn't study the Quran. It's also that they, whatever they knew or pretended to know about Islam, came from some random Hodja in some backyard mosque here in Berlin, or it came from some guy making TikTok videos, and since the guy has a beard, he must be an authority on Islam, right? They never in their lives dealt with anyone that had any serious thought about Islam. Like, they were completely disconnected from the Islamic tradition. You would never catch these boys to whom Islam allegedly is so important. You would never catch them reading Al-Farabi or Ibn Sina or Al-Ghazali or Ibn Arabi or Jalaluddin Rumi or Mullah Sadra or whoever. I mean, they would probably not even know those names. Or for another example, I also used to deal with quite a few of these new atheist types that think of themselves as so enlightened. I mean, this has died down a little, I feel, but in the early 2000s, this was pretty prominent, especially on the internet, right? And these would go on and on about how religion is just silly fairy tales and superstitions, and how bad it is for us, how the world would be better off without it, how Christianity ruled everything, and if we hadn't had Christianity, then we would be so much more advanced. We would already be on Mars. You can see that with the Chinese, because they didn't have Christianity, and clearly they are already on Mars, or maybe this is actually not such a good take. But again, what impressed me about these people, independently of the content of their opinion and whether they are right in their atheism or not, is once again their absolute superficiality and their disinterest to engage with anything remotely serious. I mean, these atheists, if they read anything, they would read something like Dawkins. A random, uneducated guy just giving you a dose of his opinions and prejudices. They would never read, let's say, Nietzsche. Someone to whom atheism was a serious problem, who wrestled seriously with the conviction that God is lacking, is missing. Like, who asked the question, if God is dead, what do we do with that? How do we keep on living? How do we not fall into nihilism? But then, of course, if they were to read Nietzsche, they could discover how much of their own atheism is, of course, deeply Christian, and how much of their judgments of Christianity are still very much driven by a Christian sort of morality. Like, they may be Christians that don't believe in a God, but that doesn't make you any less Christian. Or, I mean, they could read other atheists, like someone like Josh Bataille, an atheist, materialist mystic. But of course, these people tend to despise philosophy pretty much as they despise religion, because they may say that they are for science and for rationality, but actually what they hate is thinking. They hate anything that isn't touchable, that isn't seeable, anything that requires actual thought. But even there, even if you go with that, So they say they are all about science. Of course, they mean only empirical, natural science, no other sciences, except mathematics for some reason. Right? This is always where these people get into some issues explaining, because they will say that only the empirical is scientific, but then their science, like their physics, of course, very much relies on mathematics, which they would probably acknowledge as a serious science, but which of course is not empirical. But that aside, they're of course not interested at all in the theory of science and the history of science and the problems of science. Like, they would not read someone like Kuhn or Feyerabend or Blumenberg. Um, but even the actual natural science, like, usually these people, they don't know shit. Like, you won't catch them reading Newton or Einstein. If anything, maybe they studied 1 or 2 or 3 semesters of physics or of biology, and that's it. They are not truly interested in science. It's just an ideology to them. Or for a last example, I also, throughout my life, again and again, came across people that said they were interested in philosophy. I'm even related to such people, unfortunately. You can't choose who you are related to. Like these people who are these educated Philistines, like, because of their self-image and also, of course, the image they project to others, to come across as educated, interested people, thoughtful people, people interested in philosophy. And then if you look, what is the philosophy they're interested in? Like, are they reading Kant or Fichte or Nietzsche? Are they reading Plato or whatever? No, they will read some random modern day, not philosopher, but philodoxer. They will read some random professor, if he is even a professor. Not that that means much, but sometimes it's not even that. They will read a random book from a bestseller list. They will read the book that everyone currently reads, the book that is fashionable to read. And they absolutely refuse to engage with anything else. Like, for how much they pretend to be into philosophy. And I mean, especially here in Germany. If you are German, if German is your first language, then you're lucky enough you can read someone like Kant or like Nietzsche in the original, right? You don't have to rely on a translation, you don't have to learn a language, you can read that in the original. But they don't do that. In fact, they don't, as a rule, they seem to not read anything that is older than, let's say, 10 years. I mean, I once tried with my uncle, because for years and years he would lie to me, pretending that he's interested in philosophy, and then always reading these completely superficial books, and also trying to give them to me. Once, for, I don't know, Christmas or his birthday, I gifted him Fichte's Vocation of Man, which I still to this day consider the best introduction to philosophy that was ever written. Not just to Fichte's philosophy in particular, but to philosophy in general. Fichte specifically wrote that book as an introduction for the layman. And I would recommend it to anyone. I mean, at least in German. I don't know about the English translations. I don't know how good they are. But still, even a bad translation of that good book would have to be better than lots of what is written nowadays. But he couldn't deal with that at all. And so, I could give many, many more examples. The point I'm trying to make here is the following. these various people I talked about, sure, they may hold very different opinions, very different worldviews, very different ideologies. And some might be more right or more wrong than others, but that's not what concerns me here. If some happen to be more right than others, then it's by coincidence. It's not because they, through themselves thinking independently, critically, arrived at the truth, but it just so happens by lucky coincidence that they were taught some sort of truth, if they are more right than the others. But what interests me here is how similar they are. Of course, most people would probably not think of throwing all these different people in together. They would say, oh, aren't they very different? Don't they believe in very different things? But again, what's important is to distinguish between the matter, that is the content, and the form. And to be sure, these people I talked about, they themselves would not like to be grouped in together, right? They would very strongly protest against that. Like, for example, the enlightened atheist would, of course, protest against having anything in common with some esoteric New Age people or whatever. But I see them as having quite a lot in common. What they have in common is their posture, and it is the posture that matters most. This is the core of my philosophy, that what I care about is not so much the opinions of people, because the opinions are, well, they are the superstructure, they are rationalization, they largely come down to biographical coincidences, like in what society did someone grow up, in what milieu did someone grow up. Like the same person with the same posture, who nowadays is a fanatical atheist, let's say, if he had grown up in another time, in another society, or maybe just in another family, he would be a fanatic believer of some belief. But here too, it's just a matter of which family, which country was he born in, whether he's a fanatical Christian or fanatical Mohammedan. This you don't have to take too seriously, because this is not really a person's free decision. This is not up to his free will, right? What he is fed with, what he is surrounded by. What is up to his free will is what posture does he take? With what posture does he go to life? With what posture does he respond to that which is given to him? That is what our free will is about. And it is this posture that interests me. And it is this posture that the people or the groups I talked about, and many more I could have named, have in common. This posture of superficiality, of shallowness, of rootlessness, of not being interested in thoroughness, in going deeper, in studying even your own tradition, even your own set of thoughts, let alone others. And of course, this is an issue not just when it comes to worldviews, ideologies, beliefs. In the abstract, it is also an issue when it comes to what is happening currently in the world, right? And what opinions, what judgments people hold here in political matters, let's say. Because here too, we must say it as it is, most people's political opinions are entirely worthless. It doesn't matter whether they are left or right, and it also doesn't matter whether they happen to be right on something or whether they happen to be wrong on something, because and once again, in most cases, even if they are right in a certain judgment, it's just a lucky coincidence that they are white. They just happen to be white because they were influenced with the right opinions, not because they themselves really thought about it and made an informed judgment. Because most people are completely uninformed about most things, which in itself is not a problem. I mean, you cannot possibly be informed about everything, but most people still make judgments about things despite being uninformed, despite these judgments just coming from ignorance and prejudice. And they still seem to be absolutely confident about these judgments of theirs, right? I mean, let's consider important questions of our time. Let's consider, for example, the climate crisis. Most people are practical climate change deniers. I say practical, not theoretical. In theory, many might accept, yeah, there's such a thing as climate change. But if you don't say that this is by far the most important issue of all, in fact, so important that basically anything else becomes completely unimportant. If you don't say that we need the most radical changes to our society and lifestyle, and not sometime in 5 years and 10 years, but right the fuck now, then you are already a climate change denier. Then you deny the scientifically proven facts. And that's, of course, what most people do. And then they will say something like, oh, you are alarmist, you are exaggerating, it's, of course, maybe we need to do something, there's a climate change, but it's not gonna be that bad. But you can just easily test them and ask them the most simple and trivial questions, like ask them, what is the Keeling curve, or explain the albedo effect to me. Tell me how much carbon budget do we have left, and what even is a carbon budget? Explain to me how feedback loops work, or name 2 or 3 tipping points. And they will not be able to do that. They will not even have heard of those terms in most cases. But then, if they have not heard of those terms even, how can they judge whether something is too alarmist or not? I mean, for example, many people simply don't know that there are tipping points. That they might think, oh, okay, right, anthropogenic climate change, so we humans, because of our emissions, the climate is changing, so we could just stop the emissions at any point, hypothetically, and then the climate would stop warming. They are not aware that with a certain level of emissions and a certain level of warming coming from that, even if at that point we stopped our emissions, the warming would still continue, right? Because, for example, if the ground in, let's say, Siberia, that used to be permanently frozen, when that unfreezes, it also creates emissions, right? There are gases frozen there, like methane, and so even if we shut down all the factories and kept on the ground all the airplanes, if that continues to unfreeze and then emit gases, then the warming continues, right? Likewise with the melting of the ice, like the ice on the poles used to be, well, basically big white shields, right? And what does a white surface do when the sun shines off it? It reflects. Now, when the ice melts, it leaves ocean, which is much darker. And you know what happens to, let's say, a black car in the sun, right? So if through our emissions all the ice melts, then at that point we could stop the emissions, but still the Earth would not simply cool down, but rather it would absorb more of the heat of the sun than it did before, so the warming would continue. Many people don't know these things, but still they allow themselves to judge, oh, it's not that bad, you're too alarmist, when they have no competence to make such a judgment. Or likewise, consider the 2 years of genocide in Gaza we just witnessed. And I come from Germany, where to this day the genocide denial is especially bad and especially gross. And still, when you say there is a genocide, many people will treat you like some extremist conspiracy theorist. They will cancel you. They will say you're an anti-Semite. Or also, if you say specific things, like if you say Israel murders children, then they will say, blood libel, this is anti-Semitism. Israel, of course, doesn't murder children. It tries to protect civilians. But many of these people who say it's not genocide, they are not even aware that all serious genocide scholars in the world, including Jewish Israeli ones, right? Like Omar Bartov, for example, was one of the most important, most well-known Holocaust scholar, that they agree that this is genocide. People are not even aware of that. They don't even know the names of genocide scholars. Like most people who say this is not genocide could not name a single serious genocide expert, let alone have they listened to these experts. I mean, here on YouTube alone, there are so many talks, lectures by, for example, Omar Bartov or others that talk about this, but these people, they have not listened to this. Likewise, these people who say it's anti-Semitic to criticize an apartheid settler colonial ethno-state, or it's anti-Semitic to say from the river to the sea, and like here in Germany this was actually banned, right? This is considered a slogan of a terrorist organization. They aren't even aware how many Holocaust survivors there are who criticize Israel or who say from the river to the sea, right? Like they have never heard of people like Marione Ingram or Stephen Karpos or Gabor Mate. And likewise, when they say, oh, Israel doesn't kill children, this is blood libel, how do they know? Well, I can tell you exactly how they know. I just the other day or so, I came across some article on the website of the ARD, which is like, it's like the state news website, right? It's like kind of like the German BBC, you could say, or CNN. And it's funded by us all. Like we have to pay monthly a little fee to fund this. And there they said, oh no, this is of course Israel doesn't kill children. And they had experts saying Israel doesn't kill children. And who were these experts? Well, one was the anti-Semitism commissioner of Berlin. So like the Berlin politics put this guy in place to fight anti-Semitism in Berlin, which basically means that we pay him with our tax money so that he can go on the news and say people protesting Israel are anti-Semites. That's basically his job. That's what he does. And he said Israel doesn't kill children. And then the second expert in that article was a German social psychologist who allegedly specializes in conspiracy theories and extremism. And she also said this is a conspiracy theory, Israel doesn't kill children. So and most people are content with that. Like they will read an article like that and then they will say, aha, so it's clearly just an anti-Semitic conspiracy theory. But I ask you, Berlin's anti-Semitism commissioner or a German social psychologist or some journalist or some politician sitting in Germany, what do they know about what is happening in Gaza? Have they ever bothered to look? Have they been there? So who gives them the right to say what is or isn't happening there? They are talking out of their asses. They may sound serious. They may be presented as experts. Maybe they even are experts for something. Like many people are experts for something. Like maybe a gardener is an expert for gardening, but that doesn't mean that he can judge whether children are being killed by Israel, right? They are certainly not experts for the thing they are talking about. And I mean, instead of listening to them, instead of reading such an article, you could listen to people that were there, right? I mean, here on YouTube alone, you can very easily find interviews with physicians, Western physicians from the US, from the UK, from other countries, that actually went as aid workers, as medical helpers, with some NGO that went to Gaza and helped there. And you can hear them say that one day they had maybe like a dozen children walked in, all with a shot clear to their head. Like not random shots all over their bodies where you could say, okay, they died in the crossfire, it's unfortunate, but this is collateral damage, but like a clear shot to the head to several children, which does not happen by coincidence, right? And then they go on to tell that another day, a bunch of children were walked in all with a clear shot to their chest. And another day, a bunch of children all with a clear shot to their genitals. So clearly, the only explanation for that is that Israeli soldiers made this some sort of game, using the children as target practice, and every day deciding on choosing a new body part to shoot. But most people are not aware of that. They don't go out, even though it would be very easy, saying, hey, maybe I should check this for myself. Maybe I should at least invest 5 minutes turning on my computer or my phone or whatever, going on the internet, trying to find a report, to find a statement by someone who was actually there in Gaza, who actually saw things with his own eyes. And this is the issue in our world. The issue is people don't look. Kant said, thinking as such is just empty, right? You can make up anything in your head and it can make sense in your head, but you need to check empirically. You need to have actual viewing. You need to view things. You can't just think and make them up in your head. So people don't view. They are not thorough. They are shallow. And the sources they go to learn about things, to inform their own worldview, they are shallow too. And seeing how our technology has developed with the internet, social media, AI, this seems to only get worse. I mean, here on YouTube alone, you have so many videos pretending to explain something, but doing it so badly. Like, for example, when it comes to philosophy, you have countless channels that get tens of thousands of clicks, where some philosopher is explained in 5 minutes. And I mean, you should know by the length alone that this can only be bullshit. But if you ask who gives this person the competence to even explain this philosopher in the first place, be it 5 minutes, be it 5 hours, usually the video is done by some guy who probably read through the Wikipedia article. Or maybe read through one work of that philosopher, but not more. But now, as things are developing, these videos will end up being the good ones. They will end up being in the top, because now, of course, you have AI videos that are, no matter what topic they are on philosophy, on history, on religion, on natural science, if you know anything about the topic in question, and then watch such a video, you can only facepalm. There are such gross mistakes and lies and distortions in these videos. But this is what many people go by, of course. Like students in school or in university, they will let ChatGPT write their homework, right? They have to write let's say at university, at the end of a class, they have to give in like 20, 30 pages of homework. A majority doesn't go to the library anymore and actually checks out books by actual scholars that actually studied something, that went to the sources, that were so. And they themselves certainly aren't so. No, they just let ChatGPT write it. And of course, this can only turn into some sort of feedback loop because, of course, the AI is dumb, right? It cannot really create anything. It just takes what it finds, like on the internet, and mashes it together. Well, what it finds right now is stuff that humans created. Still, what the AI will make of it will be slop, nothing but slop. It's like a copy, right? When you copy something, it will never be as good as the original. But with more and more AI content created, of course, the AI will more and more feed on AI content, which in itself is not original, right? But rather is probably created from yet more AI content. And somewhere down the line, there's some original human content. So it's like copying a copy and then copying it again and again. And of course, it just becomes worse and worse, right? And so it will just become more sloppy and more superficial. And I don't see a way out of this until humans actually change their posture, until they become more aufklärt and more, let's say, genuinely hungry for something real and thorough and something with actual substance. And of course, that is exactly what I want to offer on my channel. So right now I'm in the middle of a lecture series on Kant. The series has already gone on for much over a year and still it will keep going on for more than another year. I am so here. And to be able to do this series, I have actually read all of Kant. All 29 volumes of his collected works. His letters, his lectures, his notes, everything. But of course, I'm not the only one offering lectures on YouTube. And the world we have now, the technology we have now, the internet we have now, could be a great chance for us. I mean, people of the past could envy us for the abilities we have. Because, I mean, never has it been easier if you wanted to really find out about something, to really be so, to really look at something. I mean, let's just go with philosophy. You can now find the whole works of a philosopher like Kant or like Nietzsche or whomever online for completely free. I mean, you will have to pay for electricity and for your internet, but not for the book as such. It's so easy. And likewise, scientific, scholarly content. I mean, here on YouTube alone, there are really good lectures. You don't have to rely on a 5-minute video on a philosopher or on a historical event by people who are not scholars, who are not historians, who don't know what they are talking about, if they are people at all, and if the video was not created by some AI. You don't have to rely on that. There are actual real scholars that know what they are talking about, that have really studied something thoroughly and conscientiously, that give long interviews or lectures here on YouTube alone. If you want, the stuff is there. It is a decision that you make whether you are content with superficial slop or whether you want to really understand something and really get into something. And I want to help with this. And I'm, of course, not the only one on YouTube who does that. Like, I don't pretend that I'm making the only good videos on YouTube or the best videos on YouTube. But you have to go, of course, you have to look a bit. You have to go through a lot of bullshit and slop. And some people seem to struggle with that. Like, if someone is subscribed to my channel, I will assume that he has an interest in thoroughness and that he has an interest in going deeper. I mean, not everyone does. Some people are subscribed to me by accident, it seems, and when they find out, then they may unsubscribe. But anyone who is subscribed seriously and who watches seriously, I will assume has an interest in thoroughness and in depth. But I also find that some people seem to have an issue really finding it. Like, some people, when they subscribe to you on YouTube, right, you can choose that in your settings. Some people make it so that you can see they are subscribed and you can see who else they subscribe to, or they have maybe a playlist on their channel with videos that they like. And sometimes I check that out of interest, like who has subscribed to me. And I've sometimes found that someone may be subscribed to other channels that talk about somewhat related topics like philosophy, psychology, history, politics. But unfortunately, most of the time, I found that other channels or other videos that someone had liked or subscribed to were quite superficial. Maybe because he just didn't find anything better. So what I want to do from now on, what I had planned to do for quite a while now, is I want to also recommend on this channel videos by others. I want this channel to be sort of a general source. I want it to not be only about my own videos, because very consciously I named this channel not the Jonathan Löwer channel, I named it The Voice of Reason. And this is what I want this to be. It shouldn't matter whether it's me or somebody else talking to you. What should matter is that it is reason itself talking to you. And I mean, I've previously made it clear when I call myself the voice of reason, I'm not saying that I'm so special, that I alone am the avatar of reason and reason speaks through me and only me. I mean something quite simple. I made it clear previously that anyone can be the voice of reason if that person just so chooses to not let his self speak, his opinions, his prejudices, but rather put that aside and let reason as such speak through him. If you just say 1 + 1 is 2, you are already in that moment speaking not your opinion, but being the voice of reason. So from now on, I want to create some playlists and offer them here to the public on my channel of videos that I found on other channels that I recommend. Now, those playlists, I will probably add new playlists sometimes, and to the playlists, to the old playlists that I already added, I will from time to time add new videos. Like, just when I come across something, when I myself happen to watch a new video that I find worth watching, then I will put it in one of my playlists for others to watch. So I recommend checking out those playlists once in a while because they will probably grow over time. And the videos I will recommend will be videos on different topics, but I do assume that someone interested in my videos should also be on some level interested in them. There might be videos that actually contribute to an aufklärt posture, to more rational, more critical, more happy life. So those videos will probably be in the minority because unfortunately there are not that many apart from me working on actual Aufklärung. But there might be a lot of videos that offer some sort of knowledge on some topic. Be it something about history, something about religion, something about anthropology, also something about current events, because you have a responsibility to know what is happening in the world. You are not alone on an empty island. Rather, you are part of a society. You can vote maybe, but you also vote with your wallet by what you buy or what you don't buy. And you also take part in society. You talk to people in your daily life. And so you have an influence, however small, on what is happening. And therefore, it is your duty to know to some degree what is happening. You should know when there is a crime against humanity happening. You should know when a company like, let's say, Nestle, or when a country like, let's say, China or Israel is evil and committed to injustice, so that you can then choose not to take part in that injustice, not to support them, but to boycott them. And so I will recommend different sorts of videos as long as they somewhat fit with what this channel is meant to be, the voice of reason talking to you to help you in your Aufklärung. So if I find a video by somebody else where to some level, to some degree, the voice of reason speaks and not just some random self speaking his unqualified opinion, then I will probably recommend that video. However, I do want to be clear that first off, this will not necessarily mean me endorsing a channel. I mean, I do recommend that if I recommend a video by a channel, and especially if I recommend several videos, then maybe you should also check out the channel. Maybe there are more videos that I will not outright recommend here, but that might still be worth checking out. However, I will probably not recommend whole channels as such, or if so, then very, very rarely, because there for me the bar is higher. And it depends not only on whether, well, the content is good and worthwhile and thorough and educating, but also there's a moral criteria for me. In fact, I am subscribed to very, very few channels on YouTube. There's some channels that I watch. There's even a number of channels that, even though they may have hundreds of videos, I've watched completely. Because if a channel is good, then once again, I'm thorough, just like I was with Kant, reading all 29 volumes of his works. I have watched hundreds of videos on some channels, but I still refuse to subscribe to them for moral reasons, because I very much believe that if you have a platform, if you speak publicly and people are listening to you, and I mean, as of now, this channel of mine is super small. Basically, no one listens to me, but there are channels out there where every single video is seen by tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands of people, and that gives you quite a lot of responsibility. And if you have such a channel and you don't address the evil in the world at all, then I will not support you by subscribing to you or by recommending you outright. And unfortunately, we live in a day and age where it is very, very easy to see whether someone with a platform is even remotely responsible and conscientious and moral. And this is my criteria. Do they talk about the climate crisis? As a principle, I'm not subscribed if they don't talk about the climate, which is the reason why I'm subscribed to the channel of Greta Thunberg, even though it has like 6 videos or so, and it's basically that, and why I'm subscribed to almost nobody else. And second, does it talk about serious violations of human rights? Does it talk about genocide? Does it talk about the oppression and genocide in China? Does it talk about the oppression, the apartheid, and the genocide in Israel? Does it talk about Moscow's imperialism and genocide in Ukraine? And if it does not do so, then I know that maybe this channel is informative, maybe it's educational, maybe it even has some good ideas, but the person doing it cannot be a truly moral person that I truly want to support. Which I think is really a very, very low bar to set. But it turns out that it seems to be so high that almost no one on this platform meets it. And I know that what many would say, oh, my channel is about, I don't know, history, or it's about archaeology, and I don't want to get involved in politics, I don't want to be partisan, I may have my opinions and convictions, but I want to keep that out of here, I don't want to be divisive. But you don't get to say that, because these things I talk about, they are not political, right? Politics is about how do we live together as people. And I keep politics out of my channel too. Like, I don't talk about party politics. I don't talk about what exactly should be the system of pension or of health insurance or so. But these things, like a functioning climate on the earth that allows for human civilization, or basic human rights, like no genocides happening, these things are not political. They are pre-political, because they are the condition of the possibility of politics. Because again, politics is about how do we want to live together. Well, if we all cannot live because of the climate, or if we say to some people, you are not allowed to live, you have no human rights, we don't want to live together with you, then that is the death of politics. No, human rights are the basic fundament of politics, and only if everyone can live together safely and securely and freely, only then can we actually start being political with one another. So you don't get to say that. You don't get to say, oh, I'm not political on my channel. This is not political. This is about actual human beings dying. And just think, imagine if in the 40s there had been internet and there had been YouTube, and if someone in some other country that was not yet at war with Germany would have made YouTube videos about, I don't know, history or religion or whatever, and would not with a single word have mentioned Germany and the apartheid in Germany and Germany's genocide, and would have excused himself by saying, oh, this channel is meant to be apolitical. No, if you had a platform back then, it would have been your duty, your moral duty, to tell people the Nazis are evil and we should all do our part in fighting the Nazis and bringing the Nazis down. And likewise, today you must talk about how evil Israel is, and how evil China is, and how evil Moscow is, and how evil Saudi Arabia is, and how evil the climate crisis is. And if you don't do such things, I would not really want to support you with a subscription and with a recommendation. Now, with that said, I still, as I said, recommend, when I recommend a video in one of my playlists, especially when I recommend several videos from the same channel, maybe you want to check out the channel. But of course, I want to make one last thing clear, and that is that I don't necessarily stand behind everything said in the videos that I recommend, let alone on the channels, in the other videos of the channels that made these videos. So I refuse to have that held against me at some point, right? I stand behind every single word that I say in my videos or that I write in my text. That's something I wouldn't say if I didn't believe it. So that's something I'm willing to take responsibility for. And if I happen to say something wrong there, then I'm willing to correct it and so on. But when it comes to other videos I recommend, I refuse to be guilty by association. So you cannot at some point tell me, oh, but this YouTuber, you recommended a video by him and now he has said something nasty. Okay, maybe he has. Maybe I wasn't even aware of that, but even if I was, so what? I just recommended this video. I just said it may be worth a watch. That's not to say that everything this guy says at other points must be right. And that's not even to say that everything said in this video must be right. Right? You should be aufklärt. You should think for yourself. So I'm not saying swallow every word in every video I recommend. I mean, I'm not even saying swallow every word in my videos. I'm just saying, if you seek Aufklärung in some way, this video might be worth to check out. I agree with Kant, who said that a book with original ideas, even if it is full of errors, is worth a read more than a trivial book full of trivial truths. Because Kant would say the original ideas, they at least get me thinking. They at least give me fodder for my own thoughts. Even if there are errors in that book, I can put them aside and think about what is interesting, what is inspiring about that book. So it might be worth checking things out, even if they contain errors. So I might actually recommend videos, even though I believe some of them may contain some errors or may contain parts I disagree with. Recommendation, that's just what I want to stress. Recommendation will not necessarily equal full agreement. It will just be that. It will just be me saying, hey, check that out. It might be interesting to listen to. My deep thanks be to my supporters: Leo Allmann, Thomas Deuringer, Gernot Klaufen, Benjamin Lehning, Ökobong, Samet Özkilic, Yasin Özün, Alexander Reuter, Lisa Rinner, Ron Suhl, as well as to all others who support me and my aufkläring cause.